thank you for joining. I'm doing well, Vanessa. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? Thank you, Coconut Water. Shout out to Camila. How are you doing? Shout out to Mia. Hi, Mia. Thank you for joining. Shout out to Vanessa. Vanessa, how are you? I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to, is it Destiny? Destiny. Let me know if I misspelled your name so I can write it again. Merry Christmas. I know Christmas is almost here. Almost. Shout out to Amelia. Thank you for joining. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Let me fix that. So shout out to Dysentery. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Bixby. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to, is it Arion? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Charlie. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Antonio. Also leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. You're welcome, Emily. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Manu. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to, is it Marquitos? Shout out to, is it Jana or Jana? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Zara. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Weston. Shout out to Jaina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Troy. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Muan Kim. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Priscilla. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Zareth. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Zareth. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to, is it Alcy? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Fernanda. Shout out to Kiana. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Lori. Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Lana. Shout out to Johan. Is it John? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Jackson. I'm so sorry if I haven't written your name. The chat goes a little fast. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Elaine. Please write your name again if I haven't shouted you out. Shout out to Shania. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Lorenzo. Shout out to, is it Sichi? I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to, is it Matilde? Matilde? Shout out to Matilde. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Tina. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to Manon. Shout out to Asil. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Jalia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to, was it Amelie? Shout out to Miguel. Shout out to Crystal. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Kiki. Shout out to Princey. Shout out to Kaya. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Nathan. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Jacob. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Everly. Whoops, I spelled Everly wrong. Let me write it again. Shout out to Everly. Shout out to Teddy. Shout out to Enzo. Shout out to Dory. Shout out to Federico. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Air. Shout out to Ria. Shout out to, is it Delani? Or Delaney? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Cora. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Cam. Shout out to Paridi. Paridi, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Ashlyn. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for your patience. I know I don't write fast, but I try my best. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Christian. Shout out to Soon Min. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Santiago. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Ken Lee. Shout out to Cave. Shout out to Melanie. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Rai Rai. Shout out to Amaya. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Iris. Shout out to Sonia. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Also subscribe if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much for being here. On to the next page. Shout out to Naraya. Shout out to Trini. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Zia. Shout out to Bree. Shout out to David. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Neymar. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Sherry. Or Cherry, sorry. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Claire. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Rodrigo. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Frida. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Jose. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Donica. Shout out to Jessa. Shout out to Nahi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Althea. Shout out to Bristol. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Leof. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Katarina. Shout out to Cassie. Shout out to Liz. Jessa Liz. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Noah. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Dimple. Shout out to Leia. Shout out to Christian. Shout out to Ensley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Angie. Shout out to Belinda. Shout out to Louisa. Shout out to Nevaeh. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jess. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Sajilis. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Princess. Shout out to Paige. Whoops. Paige. Shout out to Dawn. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Orlando. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Bella. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Jenny. Shout out to Kamoya. Shout out to Edgar. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Jolie. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Amanda. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Olivia. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Kamoya. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Jazzy. Shout out to Interested. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to June. Shout out to Rain. Shout out to Zanaya. Shout out to Tina. Shout out to Polash. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your patience. Shout out to LeBron. Shout out to Kat. Shout out to Christina. Shout out to Lala. Shout out to Jonah. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Misha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Rand. Shout out to Potter. Shout out to Milo. Shout out to Cave. Shout out to Malika. Shout out to these people. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. On to the next page. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Oh, I can't flip the page. There we go. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Rebecca. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Zamariah. Shout out to Jocelyn. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Dragon. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Inaya. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Heaven. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Zion. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Antonella. Shout out to Brayden. Shout out to Maxie. Shout out to Kaya. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Madden. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my live streams. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for your patience. Shout out to Shaya, or Chaya, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Suki. Shout out to Hi Piggy, thank you for being here. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Leia. Shout out to Gabriel. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Kendall. I'm glad your class was fun today, Piggy. Shout out to Chessa. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Belle. Shout out to Caroline. Shout out to Leticia. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for your patience. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Olivia. I know I'm not the fastest writer, so thank you so much for your patience with me. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Angie. Please write your name again if I haven't gotten to you. Shout out to Milano. Shout out to David. Shout out to Angelo. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Tyson. Tyson, I hope the braces are not too painful. Shout out to Karina. Shout out to Alyssa. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Milano. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Milano, I got you. Shout out to Serbia. Shout out to Mirella. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Dexter. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Susan. Shout out to Mariana. Shout out to Julie L. Shout out to Jaslyn. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to August. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Cheryl. Shout out to Liliana. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Noah. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Deyanira. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jose. Shout out to Celestivia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. I'm gonna put your name here because I have more space. Celestivia. There we go. That way your name fits. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Just Some Nuggets. What name do you want me to write? Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Ivy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Michael. Shout out to Zaylee. Shout out to Cassandra. I'm gonna put your name here, that way it fits. Shout out to Mia. Thank you for subscribing. John Doe. Shout out to John Doe. Shout out to Lilac. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Monica. Shout out to Lewis. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Xenon. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Gavin. Shout out to Max. Oh my goodness. Shout out to Anaya. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to these people. I'm missing my green marker. Let me try to find it. Give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Thank you for your patience. I tried to find it, but I think I misplaced it. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. I have this green one, but I lost the dark green one. But I'll try to find it after the live. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed my shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out. As shout out to Camila. Was it Camila with a K or a C? I forgot. Shout out to Nexus. Shout out to Noah. Whoopsie, I messed up. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Nina. Shout out to Journey. Shout out to Soph. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kenny. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Shayla. Leave a like if you enjoyed the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Caitlin. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Noah. Thank you for your support. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Lucia. Shout out to Titus. Shout out to Selena. Shout out to Melody. Shout out to Hadia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Marilyn. Shout out to Ivan. Shout out to Hawa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cindy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jennifer. Thank you everyone for your patience. Sometimes the live stream goes really fast and I'm unable to write fast, so thank you for your patience. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Jemiah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Surya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Nancy. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Cole. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Aram. Shout out to Ivy. Jasmine, I got you. Shout out to Mirab. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Kenya. Shout out to Christopher. Shout out to Amira. Thank you for showing me how to spell your name. Sorry for writing it wrong. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Wesley. I'm gonna rewrite because I messed up right there. Shout out to Wesley. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to Melanie. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Belen. Shout out to Melissa. Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Delaney. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Lizzie. Shout out to Madeline. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to Silver. Shout out to Juliana. Shout out to April. Shout out to Felicia. Or Felicia, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to London. Shout out to Haviva. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Ariel. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Laugh. Shout out to London. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Layla. Oh no, I put an H. There we go. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Jalaya. Shout out to Cheyenne, or Sheanne, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Coral. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Joshua. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Anna Rhodes. Shout out to Olivia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Embry. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ishant. Shout out to Emmanuel. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Unizi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Juju. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Amira. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to these people. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to your name. When the chat goes really fast, it's hard for me to keep up. So thank you for your patience. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe if you enjoy the live stream. Also check out my channel. I post other content. I hope you can support as well. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Cupcake. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Lalani. Shout out to Laugh. Shout out to Samaya. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Delaney. Shout out to Gianni. Shout out to Hadassah. Shout out to Clark. Shout out to Jojo. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Isabella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jayla. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Savdeep. Shout out to Gracie. Shout out to Laugh, I got you. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Alisa. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Cole. Shout out to Kaylee. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Sarushma. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nevaeh. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Evanders. Shout out to Melissa. Shout out to Stella. Shout out to Eddie. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Sebastian. Shout out to Delilah. Shout out to Valentina. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sawyer. Shout out to Lane. Shout out to Florence. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Zach. Shout out to Samara. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Jaylani. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Dakshina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ava. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Paris. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Fatima. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Hafer. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lamine. Yamal. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Olamide. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nadira. Shout out to GMP. Shout out to Ivy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Journelis. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ronaldo. Oopsie. There we go. Shout out to Suede. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Vivianx. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Messiah. Shout out to Aliana. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Daniela. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Juju. What's your sister's name? Shout out to Ruth. Shout out to Shariah. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to, oh, Ruth, I got you. Shout out to, or it's a different Ruth. Shout out to Ruth. Shout out to Luciana. Shout out to Elias. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Nancy. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Elias. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Persia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Fergie. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Marissa. Shout out to Shariah. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Justine. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Gia. Shout out to Colina. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Sambrita. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. I'm gonna put your name. I'm gonna try to write it here. Trying to make it fit. There we go. Shout out to Sambrita. Shout out to Yunchip. Marsha, can you write your name again? I'm so sorry. What, am I putting an H after your name? Shout out to Mira. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to Louise. Shout out to Shariah. Shariah, is it with an H at the end? Or no H? Shout out to Delilah. Okay, there we go, Shariah. Shout out to Shariah. Shout out to Kaylani. Shout out to Cristiano Ronaldo. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Liliana. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Please like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Soraya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Gervier. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Joaquin. Shout out to Dwight. Shout out to Grayson. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Ashvish. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aaliyah. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Vixivel. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Marsha. Shout out to Thiago. Shout out to Oakley. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Saul. Shout out to Gervier, I got you. Shout out to Jisabel. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Gab. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Quincy. Shout out to Selah. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Soraya. Shout out to Adam. Shout out to Anaya. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Ali. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lillian. Shout out to Sufi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gervier. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gomez. Shout out to Dakshina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Maya Lee. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Damaya. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Alyssa. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Miguel. Shout out to Gomez. Shout out to Gabriella. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Miguel, I got you. Shout out to Amaya. Shout out to Olivia. Happy birthday, Olivia. Shout out to Alejandra. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Joya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Amity. Shout out to KA. Happy birthday. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Arkan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kelly. Happy birthday. Shout out to Air. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Isaac. Shout out to JC. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sienna. Merry Christmas as well. Thank you. Shout out to Helena. Shout out to Emmanuel. Shout out to Nessa. Shout out to Carmel. Happy holidays to you too. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Cece. Shout out to Emily. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Araya. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to, thank you Lily. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Coben. Shout out to Hafer. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Sean. Shout out to Kira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Victoria. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Harvey. Shout out to Finn. Thank you, JC, for your support. I appreciate it. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Kajal. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Juvenka. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Nessa. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Sun. Shout out to Celestivia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Keith. Shout out to April. I did, Lily. I got you. I put Nessa right here. I got you. Shout out to Shiloh or Shiloh. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Nessa. Shout out to Fredo. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Aliana. Shout out to Sun, I got you. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Nashley. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my live streams. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.